The city was still half asleep when the alarm shattered the silence of Arjun's small apartment. The sharp, insistent beeping cut through the chill of the early morning, demanding obedience. For a brief moment, Arjun stared at the ceiling, his body wrapped in warmth, his mind whispering 1,000 excuses. 5 more minutes won't hurt. It's too early. You can start tomorrow. But there was another voice too, quieter but sharper. If you can't conquer your bed, how will you conquer your dreams? Arjun exhaled, sat up, and swung his legs off the bed. The wooden floor was cold, but the decision was made. He stood up, stretched, and went to wash his face. The icy water slapped away the last of his hesitation. He was awake now, and the battle had already begun, not against the world, but against himself. Arjun was 24, a recent graduate, and a dreamer who wanted to make something meaningful of his life. He had grown up watching people surrender to comfort, his friends who gave up on dreams because they were too risky, and his relatives who told him stability was more important than passion. He wanted more. He wanted control over his mind, over the chaos inside him that always pulled him away from focus, from consistency, from discipline. Every morning, he forced himself to run before sunrise. The first week was brutal. His legs burned, lungs screamed, and every instinct told him to quit. But he kept going. He wasn't chasing fitness, he was chasing mental strength. Each drop of sweat was proof that he was fighting his weaker self. He worked part-time at a small cafe, earning just enough to pay rent. In the evenings, he studied for competitive exams. His dream was to become a civil servant, not because of the power, but because he wanted to bring real change. But dreams, he had learned, don't bend easily to emotion, they demand effort, persistence, and discipline. His biggest enemy was not failure but distraction. Every time he sat down to study, his mind betrayed him, endless scrolling through his phone, random thoughts about people who had wronged him, worries about what others thought. It felt like trying to tame a wild animal. One night, frustrated and on the verge of giving up, he called his mentor, an old teacher named Mr. Menon, who had once told him, discipline is the bridge between desire and achievement. Sir, Arjun said, his voice low. I'm trying, but my mind, it's uncontrollable. I start well, but I lose focus, I get lazy, I get scared. I feel like I'm fighting a losing battle. There was a pause on the other end. Then Mr. Menon said softly, Arjun, your mind is like a child. If you let it do what it wants, it will throw tantrums. You have to train it, not once, but every single day. Discipline is not about being perfect. It's about being consistent, even when you don't feel like it. Especially when you don't feel like it. But how do I control it? You don't control it by force, said the teacher. You control it by awareness. Every time your mind wanders, gently bring it back. Like bringing back a child who ran into the street. It's patience, not punishment. That conversation changed something in Arjun. He stopped expecting instant results. He understood that mastery was a slow, deliberate process. He started journaling his progress, writing down every small victory, every failure, every moment he resisted comfort. Slowly, something began to shift. He no longer needed motivation to start studying or running, he had built a habit. His mornings became sacred, a time of silence, self-reflection, and mental training. He read philosophy, listened to motivational speeches, and wrote affirmations on sticky notes that filled his mirror. Control your thoughts before they control you. Pain is temporary, pride is forever. You are your only competition. Months passed. The exam date approached. Arjun's friends often mocked him, why waste your youth like this? You're missing out. He smiled, but deep inside, he knew they were prisoners of their comfort. They wanted instant pleasure, he wanted lasting purpose. The day of the exam arrived. Thousands of candidates filled the hall, each carrying their hopes and fears. Arjun sat down, heart pounding, hands trembling slightly. But as he closed his eyes for a moment, the world fell silent. He had done his part. He had prepared, not just intellectually but mentally. When the papers were distributed, he opened them calmly. Every question seemed like a test not of knowledge, but of composure. He wrote steadily, refusing to let panic win. 3 hours later, he left the hall with quiet satisfaction. He didn't know if he would pass, but he knew he had conquered himself. Weeks later, the results were declared. Arjun had cleared the written exam, not at the top, but well enough to move to the next stage, the interview. But then life, as it often does, struck unexpectedly. His mother fell seriously ill. Hospital visits, bills, and sleepless nights followed. The weight of responsibility pressed down on him. The money he had saved for preparation went into medicines and treatment. There were nights when he sat beside her hospital bed, exhausted, tempted to abandon everything. But then, that quiet inner voice returned. Discipline is doing what must be done, even when your heart breaks. He adjusted his schedule. He studied in waiting rooms, listened to audio lectures during bus rides, and read notes under dim hospital lights. When his mother saw him one morning with dark circles under his eyes, she whispered weakly, "You don't have to push so hard, Beta. Take care of yourself." He smiled and said, "I'm not doing this for myself, Ma. I'm doing this for us. For every time you believed in me." Her eyes glistened. That look became his fuel. Months rolled by, and slowly, her health improved. By the time the interview date came, Arjun had learned something profound. Discipline wasn't about forcing yourself, it was about aligning your actions with your purpose, no matter the storm. The interview was intense. The panel threw questions meant to break his composure. But Arjun didn't waver. When asked how he had managed to prepare despite his personal struggles, he replied with quiet strength, "Sir, I believe life will always test us when we least expect it. But discipline isn't about controlling circumstances, it's about controlling responses. I can't choose what happens, but I can choose how I act." There was a pause in the room. One of the interviewers smiled slightly. "That's a powerful answer," he said. Weeks later, a letter arrived. Arjun had been selected. But this story wasn't about success. It was about transformation. The real victory wasn't that Arjun became an officer, it was that he became the master of his mind. He had learned to silence the voice of doubt, to choose consistency over comfort, and to act with purpose even when motivation disappeared. Years later, when Arjun stood in front of young students at a motivational seminar, he looked at their eager faces and said, "Everyone talks about success. But success is not a moment, it's a mindset. The biggest war is not outside, it's inside. The undisciplined mind will always look for excuses, distractions, comfort. The disciplined mind will find ways, even in chaos." He paused and smiled. "You see, your mind will always try to protect you from discomfort. It will tell you to rest when you need to work. It will whisper lies, that you're not ready, that it's too hard, that others have it easier. But discipline isn't about listening to those lies, it's about rising above them. The most powerful person in the world isn't the one who controls others, it's the one who controls himself." He told them about his own mornings, how he still woke up before dawn, not because he needed to, but because he wanted to remind himself that comfort is the enemy of growth. He told them how discipline wasn't a prison but a path to freedom, freedom from laziness, from fear, from the constant noise of the world. One student raised his hand. "Sir, what if we fail even after being disciplined?" Arjun nodded thoughtfully. "Then you start again. Because discipline isn't about guaranteeing success, it's about guaranteeing progress. You may fall 100 times, but each time you rise, you become stronger. The undisciplined give up when it's hard. The disciplined begin again. That's the difference." After the seminar, as he walked home under the setting sun, Arjun felt an immense peace. Life was still uncertain, challenges still waited ahead, but he had something unshakable, control over his own mind. That night, he wrote in his journal, "Discipline is not a cage, it's the sword that cuts through confusion. Every thought, every action, every choice builds the mind's muscle. The world may test me, but as long as I master myself, I can face anything." The next morning, his alarm rang at 5 a.m. He didn't hesitate. He got up, laced his shoes, and stepped into the dawn. The city was still asleep, but his mind was alive, silent, focused, powerful. He smiled as he began to run, whispering to himself, "Discipline your mind, and the world will follow." He knew the road was long, but he also knew one thing for certain: discipline had turned his mind from a restless enemy into his greatest ally. And once you master your mind, there's nothing left in the world you cannot conquer.